Radyo Katipunan, 87.9 FM.
Radyo, 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 Katipunan, radyo, Katipunan, radyo, Katipunan, radyo, 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 Katipunan, radyo, Katipunan. The voice of the Eagle, kami di mapipigil sa pagbabalitang tumpak at tama. Buhay atin sa labas ng eskwela, ating ibibida lahat ng eskwela. Radyo, 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 Katipunan. Radyo, 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 Katipunan. Radyo, Katipunan. Radyo, Katipunan. Kawal ni Ignacio, Katipunero sugo. Todo sa kayod, punong at tulong. Lipad na Blue Eagle, galing hiding at gigil.
This is your stop for all things pop. Catch our all-around pop culture geek, Cholo Sediaren, as he throws in some dose of what's poppin' and what's hot in the pop culture scene here on Popcorn. Munch in with us every Thursdays from 4 to 6, only here on Radyo Katipunan, 87.9 FM.
Oh my God, what am I? Leave meeting.
We're recording.
They know the concept of consent.
Alright. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. What's poppin', and welcome to Popcorn, your stop for all things pop, where we talk about all things pop culture from our homes here in the Philippine Islands to the rest of the world. Today, this is unfortunately not Cholo Sediaren, but no
Unfortunately
worries.
talaga.
Unfortunately not Cholo Sediaren, but no worries. As you can hear, he'll still be joining us on today's episode. This is Paula Molina hosting a special and, dare I say, magical episode about one of the biggest and most popular fandom series, lifestyles, books, whatever in the world. And that is Harry Potter, written by the fantastic Daniel Radcliffe. Written by Daniel Radcliffe as a celebration of our favorite lightning bolt scarred wizards, Big 4-0. So Harry is 40 years old. Nung July 31, we're celebrating a little bit late, but better late than never, I say. So you can see my
birthday.
back. Happy 40th birthday,
Happy birthday,
Happy birthday, Harry.
You're a wizard.
Happy birthday, Harry.
You're a wizard, Harry.
So if you guys can see my background, which is all just like Harry Potter pops, Harry Potter is something I practically eat, sleep, live, and breathe. So thank you so much to Cholo for giving me an opportunity to host this episode. And without further ado, we solemnly swear that we are up to no good.
Have we ever been to know?
We're always up to no good. I just like to introduce today's co-host, and once you guys say your names, could you please share with us your your Hogwarts houses as well as stereotypical Potterheads? So I'm clearly a Gryffindor. Sel?
Selena Ravenclaw.
Burns?
I am Burns.
Oh, okay, never mind.
I'm Burns.
Go ahead.
I'm Burns and I'm Ravenclaw.
Love it.
Ooh.
Cholo?
Si Dren na muna.
Ay, okay. Oh, mas special talaga,
Cholo
Dren.
Sediaren. I'm Dren. I used to be Ravenclaw, but I am apparently a Gryffindor now.
Ah.
And hello, you may know me from other episodes. I'm Cholo, and I am a Hufflepuff. And
First episode.
I'd like to thank Paula for doing this, first and foremost. You are in good hands. I will just be here to go along with the ride, which I'm sure is going to be exciting.
This is your first episode, right?
That you're
Yeah.
hosting?
I mean, I'm such a fan of the show.
Wow.
So much. Hearing you
welcome
guys.
aboard, Cholo.
I've been hearing
Podcasting is
Paula,
very fun.
Dren, Sel, Ferns.
It's nice to meet you, Cholo. All right. So, I want to start off by asking everyone how you guys came into the fandom and like what struck you most about Potter and basically got you hooked. Feel free to just jump in, guys.
Let's
Or
just
I
make
can
Well,
start. Or I
You
can
could
start.
start.
Pwede rin
You could
naman.
start. You could start.
Okay. So, I was 6 when the first film came out, and at the time, my mom already started reading the series, and she really liked it and thought that it was something that her kids should watch. So we did, and I think I mostly got into it kasi sobrang crush ko si Daniel Radcliffe at the time. Like, he was just so cute, and like, ayun, and the whole
Showing
idea of-
early signs at 6 years old.
I know, right? The thirst was already coming out at 6, but at least consistent tayo. But yeah, I mean, aside from that, like the idea of like a magical world, like how is that not attractive to a 6-year-old kid who had like a really rampant imagination? So yun, and then I bought my first illegal VCD at the time because I wanted to watch Harry Potter and hindi pa available yung like legit copy. So, binilhan kami ng dad ko nung fake. And I would watch it every Friday because that was the only time I was able to watch TV until like na-memorize ko na yung buong movie, and the rest, as they say, is history.
He's been doing this for 40 years. Joke. I'll go next, I guess. Parang sanay na ako dito eh. Well, for me, I think it's one of the earliest books I remember reading ever. Like my mom had a copy, or my tita, or both of them, and then I guess they just left it there. And parang ayun, I got into it because it's such an easy read. And it's very interesting as a book. And then yun nga, the movies came out. I still remember seeing it through my tito. And then, ayun na, I mean, ganun din eh. The experience of seeing the magic, which, we didn't have all those CGI parang as big as we do now.
Yeah.
Or, I mean, parang seeing that magical world and wanting to be in it. I guess it's really mostly that. And syempre, when you were young, you're a Gryffindor. Everyone's a Gryffindor when we were kids. You don't want to be
True.
Slytherin.
It's
But like
true.
as you grow up, syempre, you understand like humanity and what kind of person you are. So ayun, thank you for that.
Okay, I'll go next. I remember watching the movie and then going to my library in school wanting to borrow the book. But I think I was like grade 1 or 2 that time, and the librarian told me I wasn't allowed to borrow it because it was
Wow.
too advanced for me. And of course, me, as
Wow.
somebody who loves to
dare
read, I
she?
think it really hurt my pride. And as somebody who was
Advanced daw
argumentative,
mag-isip si Sel.
and as someone who was argumentative and stubborn at like grade 1 to 2,
Of course.
I think I read it to prove a point that I could actually read
like
it.
to spite her.
Be like, no, I can totally read this and at my like reading level. And I fell in love with it from there. And I think that it was a nice gateway also to reading more books.
Yes.
Especially when you have a character like Hermione Granger who's not ashamed of being a bookworm and being like a really big nerd. So I think that was very important to me as a grade 1 student who wanted to prove a librarian wrong.
I love it. Petty from the very beginning.
Sige, I'll go next.
Okay.
My first experience, I think I remember so well. We had the DVD of the first movie, and when I watched, it was like a special edition, but like it had the bonus features.
Love it.
Like it's the one that you flips open. That's what I really remember about it. And
When that
that's
was
when
still a thing.
yeah, that's when it was still a thing, and I got so hooked talaga but I don't know why. But we had the first movie, but the second movie we had 2 copies, and one was pirated. We had I don't know why.
Come on,
But-
piracy.
We had Chamber of Secrets na pirated and one with bonus features also. So then from the movies, that's when I started asking, okay, I want to read if there's a book of these, I want to read it so bad. And I just caught up with it and sobrang na-amaze ako. And that time, to early 2000s, that was such a fantasy phase for us. Like, if you're into fantasy, you're into two things. You're either into Harry Potter or you're into Lord of the Rings. And that back then talaga it was such a craze. And for our age, siguro, Harry Potter appealed to us more because there was this 11-year-old kid who realized na shucks, I'm a wizard. And then I began to realize, wait, what if I'm a wizard too? Like, could I actually be that magical too? And it was so special to be introduced to this outside world na it could actually exist. Especially since I asked my dad, does King's Cross exist? Yeah, it exists. So Harry Potter could be real? I was like, so innocent childhood.
It's so cute. I remember waiting as well, like on my 11th birthday, like for my Hogwarts letter to arrive, and just being so crushed when it didn't.
Well, Voldemort destroyed all of the records of who the Muggles and the Wizards are.
I'm holding it.
That's just what we'll keep thinking moving forward.
What do you mean keep thinking? It's true.
Believing, yes. All right.
So on that note, I read Lord of the Rings first when I was a kid because my dad was huge. Until now, he's like a huge Lord of the Rings fan, so he made me read it, despite me being like 7 or something. And so I read that, and I read The Hobbit, and being a kid, I was like hungry for more, and I was just looking for like whatever I could get. And Harry Potter, my brother was reading Harry Potter, my middle brother, and it ended up happening that I became so obsessed with it that I would he'd be like looking for his books, and I'd just be rereading them. And I remember, I think my fondest memory of the books is when the 7th book came out. My mom was very much on the let's wait for the paperback edition first.
Oh no!
And I was like, no, I need it now, Mom. And me and my brother were supposed to take turns. He was supposed to read on one day. I was supposed to read another day, and I remember I finished it in one day.
Yeah.
Just because of how much I wanted to finish it, and I just remember locking myself in a room and feeling so happy that it was finally over, and then the crushing sadness of it being over.
Yeah.
Also. So yeah.
And I guess related to the first question, why has Harry Potter been such an important fandom or presence in your life? Because I think for everyone here, it has been very, very important in more ways than just something that you like to watch or read.
Go, Paula.
Wait
for your speech.
Bakit hindi kayo host?
Well, Harry Potter, first of all, was like everyone else here, was my gateway to reading. The only thing I read prior to Potter was Geronimo Stilton books, which are very fun also, but it was really a step up when I started reading Potter, and after that I just became a very voracious reader, and it evolved into a love of language, of the English language as well, and writing, which is my career now. So I think without Potter, I probably wouldn't be interested in media and writing in the way that I am today. I can firmly say, and I think everyone who knows me will agree, that I legitimately do not know who I would be today if it weren't for Harry Potter. It has taken over every single facet of my life, to how I relate to my family, because my family is also a bunch of nerds and geeks, and talking about Harry Potter is a very easy way for us to bond with each other, and it makes it much easier to cultivate a relationship as a family. And all of my friendships, I think without a doubt, stem from Harry Potter in one way or another, particularly my earlier friendships in grade school. My friends and I would pretend to be Harry Potter characters, or God forbid, legitimately role play these characters in the hallways of our school, and do over scenes. As in, siguro every day nung grade 2 ako, inuulit-ulit lang namin yung duel ni Draco and Harry in Chamber of Secrets. Because,
of course.
there's sexual tension, and I guess at grade 2, we could already tell that for some reason.
Between two guys, no less.
Exactly. So all of that, ayun, I just really owe so much of my life to Potter. So as much as and we'll talk about this more later, the issues with J.K. Rowling, it's hard for me to detach myself at all from the series because of how much it's incorporated into my life. I mean, I would have to take down so much of my shit if I really wanted to like remove myself from the fandom.
Paula's gonna get so rich with all those limited edition.
I know.
She did end up selling them.
I probably won't.
Ako, it's not really the biggest fandom I have, but I guess it also instigated that, yung love for reading, as I said earlier, and maybe even movies, because when we were
Yeah.
young, Harry Potter was just one of those series na we didn't have any Marvel Cinematic Universe back then to watch out for every year, ganyan. And we had Harry Potter to look after. And I remember wanting those K-Zone issues with Harry Potter on the
Yes.
wall. Actually, the very first K-Zone issue had Harry Potter, right?
Same.
Yeah,
So-
October 2002 yun, di ba? Yeah.
Yes. So, it just like goes that deep na, K-Zone days, and then going to K-Zone also, and then, just watching Harry Potter unfold. And parang, yun nga, we grew up with them, although it's not
Yeah.
really our age range. Parang in a
I
sense,
think
we
it is
saw
our
them.
age range because I started like my schooling sa STC. I started going to STC when the first Harry Potter film came out, and the year that I was graduating was also the year that the last Harry
Yeah.
Potter film came out.
Yeah,
So it
so
was
I
very much like
Yeah.
growing up with Harry.
True,
Not
true.
Yeah, I don't hindi natin ka-age yung characters sa book,
Characters,
but
yeah,
in
yeah.
terms
Uh-uh.
of the
We grew up with
releases,
it,
it was
yeah.
very
It's very
time.
us. That's true. So yeah, that's my story. Cause like wala ako masyadong ambag, I would say, to this. I'm just gonna be here to give my own comments. I'm not. the
You're
biggest-
wearing a Hufflepuff shirt,
Yeah,
Well, it's
and
not
you-
real. It's just like a color scheme.
and you have like how many Harry Pops also. So I think like in some shape or form.
Yeah.
Sal?
Okay.
I think my story is very parallel to Paula's. Actually, I'm here right now in this podcast because of Paula. We became
going to
friends
cry.
in college because of Harry Potter. Like, no joke. Like, I think the reason Paula and I became really close in college was because of a lot of frequent Potter conversations in the Oregon Heights.
That's true.
And ayun, I think that Harry Potter really helped me make friends. I think I realized like growing up that you can have similar interests with people, but not doesn't necessarily mean that you appreciate it the same way.
Yes.
So for example, in the Harry Potter fandom, there are those people who love to memorize facts about the books, the kind that could be like what was in chapter 1 of the Sorcerer's Stone, and they
Oh
can answer.
Jesus.
The kind of people who would win at trivia nights, but they're also the kinds of fans who have very strong feelings about the book, who could prepare like a 30-minute presentations to argue their point, that kind of thing. And I think a lot of my friends fall in that latter category, and I myself am the kind of person who has a lot of very strong opinions about the works that I like. And I'm glad that Harry Potter was like one of the frequent topics in those kinds of discussions. And people don't really make you feel ashamed for talking like really strong feelings like, why is this my Potter house? Like you have a whole list of reasons why you're a Ravenclaw, why you're in Slytherin. And I think it was the first fandom that I had really strong feelings about. Like I would still argue with people now about why you shouldn't be a Snape apologist or
We will get to that later also.
and like I think that it's a very good space to culminate friendships.
Getting emotional.
Almost I'm pretty much the same thing with Paula kasi like it was once I started reading Harry Potter, that's when I started reading in general, like not just small books, like literal actual thick hardbound books talaga. And
Not
like
Geronimo Stilton.
if you compare yeah, no,
Oh.
well
we love Geronimo
I
Stilton.
love Geronimo
well,
still.
Yeah,
we love Geronimo Stilton.
We should have
But
a
you know,
special.
Yeah, we should. For like the bound from like yung alam mo yun, like from Harry Potter, that's I began reading other British writers like Enid Blyton, all her stuff, and then when I look at the stuff that I read now, like let's say like A Song of Ice and Fire, I wouldn't have gotten to that at that point if I didn't read stuff like Harry Potter.
Potter,
Like,
yeah.
hell, I wouldn't even think I would actually get to reading Lord of the Rings and rather than just watch it if I didn't grow up with Harry Potter in the first place. Especially nga sinabi ni Cholo na the movies parang grew up with us in a way na I will always count down to every year na I knew it was gonna come out. And even though I knew what was gonna happen already in the movie, I just wanted to see it,
Yes.
not just in my imagination. I wanted to see it on the big screen. I wanted to see everything unfurl. And
Yeah.
wow, like, and it's like an affirmation now. Okay, this really happened. The magic really is true in a way. So wala, it made me feel like every time na pumapasok ako sa sine, parang I felt like the young kid who, in a way got his first letter, but read the
Yeah.
books for the first time. So parang nakakatuwa lang talaga.
I love that. I love the
For me,
parallelisms also in like our story. So yes, go ahead, Jen. I'm sorry.
no, that's fine. For me, I think. Well, after reading Lord of the Rings is very good and evil, right? Like some characters are born good, some characters are born evil. But with Harry Potter, it's like completely different, right? Like the whole point of it is that you can't. Well, for me at least, one of the bigger points of it is that you can't like judge a book by its cover, and you have to give people second chances. Although mercy is a big like theme also in Lord of the Rings, but like the as a person who growing up wasn't really I didn't really excel at anything. I was good at a lot of stuff, but I wasn't the best at anything, if that makes sense. And Harry wasn't the best at anything. He was a very average person, and I think that's a really important thing to note about the main character of Harry Potter is that he's just this normal person. And one of the main points in book 7, spoilers if you haven't read book 7 yet, is like it could have been Neville, right? It could have also just been Neville. And like personally my headcanon is that even if it was Neville, it would have worked out exactly the same way, because the point is that it can be the chosen one can be anyone. It doesn't matter who it is. It's more about like the people around him and how he grows up. So for me it was like, even though I didn't feel special, Harry Potter made me feel special.
Oh, that's so nice.
Yeah, I think we have our own like origin stories about parang why we admire Harry as a person. And I guess even now, yung revolution thing, di ba, people keep on saying na,
Yeah.
we wouldn't be like revolting, quote unquote, the way we are if we didn't see Harry Potter and gang like go against Voldemort at that point in time.
That's
or
true. I mean,
something.
like our generation grew up with a bunch of rebels, I guess, the protagonists in our stories, and I think it says a lot then about how we think now and how we perceive what is right and wrong, and a lot of it is really owed to the series that we grew up watching. So because we've been talking about like film Potter and book Potter and how there are stark differences in both, I just want to ask everyone, which team are you on? Like, are you team books or team movies, or why do
I'm
you have
team
like
Ms. Cracker. Joke lang.
I am team
fan fiction.
Jujubee. Oh my god, I am always team fan fiction. Or which one would you rather like cozy up to on like a rainy day? Like would you rather read the books again, or would you rather like binge watch the
Oh,
series?
that's so difficult.
Ooh,
Yeah.
that's really hard.
Yeah,
The way
it's such
you
a loaded
phrased it
question.
makes it really difficult.
I mean,
For
like
me-
I have a very like quick answer to say, but I
Okay.
guess it's not like that easy apparently to other people, because I love the films were my first love. Like it's really what
Okay.
got me into this whole thing. So when I'm having a really bad day, like I would rather watch the movie. Like the first 4 films I think are like my comfort films whenever I feel sad. So for that reason alone, I prefer the films. But like generally story wise, there's a lot more meat, of course, in the books. But yeah.
If you put it that way, I would also say movies kasi I haven't even finished the whole book series. I'm so sorry. Right here. I'm
Kick
gonna
him
leave
out.
the group. I'm gonna leave the chat group. But yeah, parang natigil ako bigla for some reason.
Where did you
But
stop?
book 5, so I only have like 2 books.
Oh
left.
Lord.
Book 6 is like my favorite one.
Yeah, I was about to say book 6 is so good.
No, but
Right?
I don't really believe in like picking up from the where I left off. I have to restart the whole
That's
thing. again.
fair, especially if
Yeah,
it's been a while
that's-
since you've read
That's
it.
most of the reason why I haven't like caught up to the last 2 books, because natigil ako bigla and I need to like reset the whole thing to be able to continue the whole thing. But yeah, movies kasi
Okay.
mas yun nga, mas visceral, I guess. yung experience ko with Harry Potter. And yeah, it's pretty much my answer. But the bigger book and movie debate is like, it will never end.
Oh yeah, no.
Yeah, it will definitely never end.
So
I think I'm still partial to the books just because of the way I got into it. That I wanted to prove that I
to
could
prove someone wrong.
So where is that librarian now? I want to know.
I know. I think that's like one of my defining qualities as a person and why I'm a Ravenclaw. I like proving people wrong, and I hate being wrong myself. So I guess that says a lot about me. But yeah, I there are a lot of things in the books that I really, really like that didn't make it to the movie. So I think I'm always going to be bitter about that.
That's fair.
Mm.
Dren Burns, are you
Kasi
still
it
like
really
Yeah, I'm
depends
like
on what
losing
I'm
my mind.
feeling.
okay? That's fair also.
Yeah, because like for me, I can't. It really depends on how I'm feeling in the moment. Like if you popped on a Harry Potter film right now, I will keep. I'll keep it there on TV. Like I won't even watch it. Like I'll keep it on. I'll work. I'll read something else. I'll scroll and I'll leave it on. It's okay. I know everything that's happening. I'll even my parents and my sisters are annoyed. Na I can recite every line every now and then.
Same.
But the thing, yun nga din, the books are different. Like you said, it's meatier. Like there's so much story in it, and when you're trying to picture it in your mind, I don't know. It's the impact is bigger.
Yeah.
So you can really you can tell why Harry Potter is Harry Potter if you read the books. So it's a jumble. Like I can't really give a definite answer. Yun nga, like Cholo said, it will never end that debate between the two of them. I can never ever choose.
I think I'm gonna go with the books because, well, unlike you guys, I started with the books, and I think that now that I'm older, I've realized that that's really how I prefer to start. I recently read Haikyuu, and
You read it before
not,
watching the anime?
yeah, I couldn't. I refused to watch the anime before I finished the whole.
Wow.
Dedication.
I know, right?
It only took me like 4 days.
Wow.
But yeah, so now when there's media that's like that has a book form and the movie form, or even like if there's like a play version of it and there's a book form of the stage play, in my head there's two different versions.
Yeah.
Like for example, now with Harry Potter, I have a different version of Harry in my head that's not Daniel Radcliffe. That was the original version. So of course it's gonna be more comforting to read the books for me because it's my own version. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, it's more familiar to me and also it hurts me to say that though because I really do love the movies also, but yeah, the books.
A painful decision was made. But no, I think it's fair. I mean, however way we want to enjoy the series, I think is very valid. So it frustrates me when people gatekeep on fandoms and how people appreciate them, because to me, so long as you love it and it makes you happy and it entertains you to a certain degree, then who am I to judge how you consume something, right? So I have so many friends who are such huge Harry Potter fans, but they've never read the books. And but it's because reading is just not something that they like to do in general, no matter how interesting a topic is.
It's not something they can do as like, oh, that's me.
Yeah, it's not something fun for them. I mean, that's what I mean. It's not something fun for them. No matter how imaginative.
The library is open, Paula.
I'm not gonna say who these people are. But yeah.
Ooh, echo.
There's feedback.
Coming
from someone.
Cell, I think.
Me?
I'm not sure.
Hello.
Oh, it stopped. We're good.
Hello? Okay, yeah, we're good.
Okay, sorry about that.
So,
Cholo cut na lang Cholo cut.
Yeah.
So I have so many friends who are into Harry Potter but never read the books because it wasn't something, like reading isn't something that's fun for them. But they love the series probably as much as I do. And like when I can talk about Potter for hours, and so can they. So like however they want to consume it is perfectly fine.
It's a fair game, yeah.
Yeah, and it just frustrates me when people are like, "What? You didn't read the books? You're not a real fan." Keme. And I'm like, no, right? So, a fun question before we get into like the meatier stuff of the books themselves and the series itself. I mean, do you guys have a Harry Potter ship?
Ooh.
No.
Not Hermione and
I-
Ron. Just
Just
I
not
have
Hermione and
nothing.
Ron.
True, that's so true.
I have an easy answer. James and Lily.
Oh, Jilly!
Ooh.
Oh, I love
yeah,
that.
of course.
Without them, nothing would be possible.
True. Ah.
Their
Because there's
union.
we know so
made the
little
whole
about
series.
them. That's
I
the
know,
thing.
right?
Yeah, no, it's really frustrating.
Would you be open to a spin-off na sila?
No, I wouldn't. I think one of the reasons I really like them is the fact we don't know a lot about them, so it's up to the fans to fill in the
Oh,
blanks.
true.
Like we only
Canon.
have like the base story that she hated him at first, but then he changed, and then like we started. That's the time she fell for him. And then as fans, like we're the ones who have to like put in the details, and I find that a lot more fun than because J.K. Rowling can't write romance.
She
talaga.
can't. She really can't. Which is why I really hate majority of like the canon ships.
Ron and Hermione.
I feel like I'm more okay with them. It's Harry and Ginny that really gets to me
Ooh,
that I
okay.
don't like.
Oh yeah.
Because like to me Ginny has always viewed Harry as like, you know, this god like
yeah.
creature, right? That she kind of worshipped. And Harry, like the way he was written, is always a character that hated the attention and hated all of the special treatment. So it boggles the mind as to why they ended up together over my ship, which is like Harry and Hermione, which I think is just more natural, and they're a better fit for each other in terms of like how powerful and like how driven they both are. Because like the reason why I don't like Ron and Hermione naman is because I feel like Ron will always have an inferiority complex to Hermione given how much she wants to achieve in the wizarding world. And we could tell naman how jealous a character Ron can be.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah. But if I go on a rant about like my ship, it will take the whole podcast. So we
Maybe
started
that's
talking.
why Harry and Hermione weren't a thing. It's too powerful.
But imagine, just imagine.
Yeah. Yeah, in my head, Harry should have ended up with Hermione. For sure.
Thank God. But we're starting to talk about the characters a bit more. So let's delve into the most notable characters in the series and I guess subsequently the actors who portrayed them, because I think like that plays a huge role in how we perceive these characters, especially for us who started out with the films. So let's start with the boy who lived himself, Harry. I want to start with like a fun question, which was posed by a friend of Sel's and mine, which is, what do you think Harry did on his 40th birthday? And did you think he had like a midlife wizarding crisis?
My goodness. Well, I have so many feelings.
I
about
would
this.
think Harry is trying to solve the coronavirus pandemic.
Honestly, is there
right?
wizard corona?
No, but the thing is, because like Muggle illnesses don't affect wizards.
Exactly, right?
Yeah,
And
but like
vice
that's why I'm
versa.
saying
people,
wizard
for
corona.
other people, I don't know.
Wizard Corona.
Are they trying to solve the in the parang behind the scenes for
He's
the
a-
Muggles or something like that?
Must see Hermione siguro. I feel like I would see
I don't
Hermione
know.
more doing
It's
that.
just
I don't
a
think
random
they
thought.
do that because one of the key points in book, God, what was it 4, is that like
They don't.
we can't give magic to Muggles because we'd abuse it.
Yeah.
So I don't think they do that.
But like, do you think he had a midlife crisis? Our friend said that maybe he bought like a new broomstick, the same way that people going through
Fireball
midlife crisis.
5,000.
Fireball.
How old will his children be at this time?
Oh goodness.
He had them at like 19, which is like hella early, guys. Like,
Yeah. Oh,
Mga
yeah,
20
he-
years
yeah.
old na, maka-age na halos
Yeah.
yung mga-
yeah, James has
Yeah.
graduated
James,
na. Albus has graduated na rin ata, I think,
Maybe
or
he's just
pag-graduate
enjoying
na.
his life or whatever.
I would think Harry would enjoy like a very peaceful life. I think like the fact that he's aging is something very good to him, like something that he treasures, given that he's always thought that he would die before he reached the age of 17. So I think he's just
Tan,
very
tarararan, tan, tan. So, ibang
But in any case, like regardless of how we think Harry celebrated his birthday or what, like there's this thought that he is probably the least loved protagonist in like the history of protagonists. Do you guys agree or?
Yeah, I think so.
Mm.
Because, well, I mentioned it a while ago that he made me, as a quote unquote loser, he made me feel cool, and I think it's because he's a loser. So, and I think that's why people don't like him, because he's kind of a loser. Seriously, he's just like this average dude, you know. His whole power is like love anyone can love, but that's the appeal of him also, is that
He's a good
like,
flyer though, isn't he a jock?
Yeah.
all right, no, that's true. He's a jock.
Yeah, Jack.
Technically, yeah, he is a jock. Actually, no, that's a good point. Why? Hmm. I mean, no, I've always been sorry. I've always been aware that he's not as well liked as some other protagonists.
Mm.
Like, you don't see people fangirl about and fanboy about Daniel Radcliffe. They don't fanboy girl about
Harry.
Harry Potter.
Yeah.
Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
And people love Draco Malfoy more than they love
Oh,
Harry
my
Potter, I
goodness.
think. Yeah.
yeah, and we love God. That's the
Tom
actor's name?
Felton.
Tom Felton also. Yeah.
I never really understood it. Oh, sorry, Sal, go ahead.
I was going to say that I think that Harry, since he's the main character, he carries the weight of all of our disappointments with the books and the movie. That's why because I don't know any Harry Potter fan who does not have a single complaint about the books or the movie.
Oh yeah.
We kind of just like end up dumping it all on Harry, and that's why it seems like we don't appreciate him that much.
Mm.
Even if he does not deserve that, definitely he doesn't. There are other characters we should be hating on more. But I feel like that's the protagonist, like that's the burden he has to bear.
No, it's true, because if you say like I love Harry Potter, people will think you're saying that you love the whole series, right?
True.
Rather than like the character itself.
Yeah.
So there is that, and I think that's fair. But
But if you were to
personally,
change the name of the series without his name attached to it, what would you call it?
wala, it's so iconic as it is na eh.
Yeah,
Wizards.
The Wizarding World.
Wizarding World is what J.K. Rowling is
That's-
using right now eh.
right
But
now.
it doesn't have the same impact though.
Yeah.
True. Yeah.
And
Harry Potter
it's
is
so
like-
memeable than Harry Potter and the audacity
Blah,
of
blah,
this
blah, blah,
bitch,
blah.
you know, yung mga ganung memes, which is just so funny to me. So yeah. But I think like personally, I have this love for really, really good, like at their core is what they are. They're good people. And Harry is that to me. Same reason why I love Steve Rogers, also like in the background of my room right now, is because at their core they are good people, and that's what makes them quote unquote special, even though it's not really supposed to be something special about them, because that's how every person should be in the first place. So I think I personally am frustrated with the fact that Harry is a very not loved, universally not loved protagonist, because I really, really just love who he is as a character, and the struggles that he went through, and still being such a decent human being in spite of all of that. He can be broody at times, but like I think people forget he was a teenager going through all of that. So perfectly acceptable, some of the things that he's done and like the frustrations that he's aired out. So ayun, I love the goodness that Harry brings out to the world, and it's something I try to emulate every day also. With the snarkiness pa rin, because he is a very snarky character that the films
Yeah.
don't portray as well.
Very
Grabe.
emo.
Yeah. All right. Moving on to probably my favorite character in the series, which is Hermione Granger. Like she is just the best, and the like my inspiration for everything. Like it's always like, what would Hermione Granger do if she were in this particular situation? And she made, because I was a big nerd like growing up, yung honor student that and like know it all that everybody kind of disliked in class, and Hermione Granger made me feel like that's not something I should ever be ashamed about, like my being smart at the time. I don't think I'm like as smart now than I was when I was a child. Na yung laging honor student, hindi na ata ako ngayon. But growing up, like she was such an important figure that like what women, palagi na lang kasi pag babae, and Sal, I think you can back me up. If you're like this know-it-all, like you will be treated how Ron treated Hermione at the start of the series, diba? Na kinaiiritahan or just thinking you're really bossy, but you're just asserting yourself. If a man did the same thing, parang everybody would just laud him and, you know, all of that stuff. So Hermione Granger is just a constantly good figure to aspire to be, I think. So
Yes, absolutely agree. I definitely agree, and I feel like having a character like Hermione is really great for little girls, yeah, to be able to learn how to assert themselves, especially in very male-dominated spaces.
Mhm.
I think where I'm coming from is the fact that I used to work in an office full of dudes, as in like full of dudes talaga, as in like 90% of the people there were guys, and it gets really really intimidating. And I think that sometimes like I like what Paula said, like Harry Potter is a good comfort film because you see this girl who stands up to all these guys who try to mansplain and thinks that she knows better than them.
Yes.
So that's why I also really appreciate Hermione Granger as a character.
Okay. Um, Ron Weasley. I have a lot of fan friends who dislike him as a character because they think he's such a dick. Like, do you guys agree that he was like?
Uh, well, first about the Hermione.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's okay. I didn't understand why people hated her when I was reading the books.
Mm.
I thought to myself like I'd be her friend if I was like in Hogwarts with her. And also there's a like she has the strongest will by far among like so many of the characters, especially the three. I think she
Mhm.
has the strongest will. The fact that she was the only reason they kept going in book 7,
Right?
really.
Like they would have
Yeah.
died without her.
Yeah, right. So yeah, but with Ron, I love I no sorry I both hate him and completely sympathize with him because
Mhm.
I had two older brothers growing up and they were like amazing at everything. So
Mm-mm.
I was very like, oh, I get him. I understand how he feels. But at the same time I hated it because I knew that he shouldn't be acting that way, which is
Mhm.
why like his development over the years really resonated with me because it was like it made me feel like I could grow out of the shadow of my brothers also. So
Oh, that's great. I always hate that. Well, I'm very big into fan fiction and Harry Hermione fan fiction in particular. And a lot of the stories are always like Ron bashing, Weasley bashing in general. And I really dislike that way of viewing him as a character kasi parang we're judging him how he was as a teenager. And like all of us went through a similar phase where we're not like our best selves when
Yeah.
we're teenagers. So I think it's just very unfair. And I think he's also a good person. Like in spite of all of the stuff that he's done, it's
yeah.
not like he really meant to be hurtful or whatever. But
Yeah,
yeah.
parang basa ko sa kanya, parang yun nga eh, with all the pressure coming from his family and like
Mm-mm.
being with Harry,
Yeah.
who's like the favored one by everyone at some point, and then si Hermione is like such a strong-willed person. I think Ron has that, siya yung naging fallback ng ganong mga circumstances, and you
Mm-mm.
really can't blame him for that. And I guess a lot of people can relate to that nga, which is why Dren's point was really nice. And yun nga with Hermione, I would say yeah. Or do we see our female friends in a really good light because Hermione exists? Probably yes. So that's good for people who read or watch these movies because you see that strong women, strong children, strong girls exist, and that she paved the way for a lot of our female centered films ngayon or
Mm.
mga media. So that's really great on Hermione's end. So those are my takes on Hermione
Love
and Ron.
Hermione. Okay. And I think this is the one that a lot of people have disagreeing opinions about, and it's something Sel and I discuss all the time, which is Severus Snape. Thoughts on him as a character, or our litmus test on reading people is whether or not they think Snape is a good person or
He's like OG simp, isn't he? Like he's very, right? Like he's like I'll do anything for you, Lily. And as
and
somebody
call you a slur is probably one of the things that he would do for her.
yeah. Uh I think personally with Snape, I was one of the people who before was very much on the I love Snape as a
Mhm.
character because I understood his desire to basically be wanted or accepted by anyone.
Yeah.
Um, Again, growing up like as a quote unquote loser, but then over time I realized that like uh, ultimately like even if you say he had a good heart, his you have to actively choose to become a better person, which is what I think he failed at.
Yes.
He he kind of never really he just kind of pitied himself forever.
Yeah.
and that's
Yeah.
like why he turned into such a bitter like potions professor. So I guess for me he's like a cautionary tale in that sense. Even though Rowling gave him like this epic death which he didn't really deserve. So
Ito na yung debate na gusto ni Paula right now.
No, because again, like I think Snape is a good character, and this is something again Sel and I have discussed in length. He's a very interesting character. I understand why people are drawn to him and why he would be a very interesting person to write. You know, that kind of persona and all. But if we're asking if Snape is a good person, I definitely don't think that he is a good person. Um, the fact that he constantly abused his students for
Yeah.
God knows how long will never be excused by any heroism that he has done, like for the quote unquote greater good. Because like imagine Neville and the trauma that he's given him for life. Diba? Like your inability to do well in class stems from the fact that you fear your teacher, and your teacher actively preys on you and enjoys doing that to you. And his hatred for Harry, which is so unfounded, just because he looks like his dad. Diba?
Yeah.
For all of those things. And if you really loved Lily, then shouldn't he have loved her
That shouldn't
son?
have mattered.
Right? Lily would have never allowed her son to be treated that way by anybody, least of all someone who used to be her friend. So I understand the appeal of Snape, but I don't know. It frustrates me that he's like viewed as this big hero when I really don't think that he is.
Actually, yeah, it might really be like a telling tale more than anything about what not to do.
Mm-hmm.
Especially nga for teachers, di ba? Malaking issue ngayon yung teachers abusing students in various
Yes.
ways. And syempre, growing up, you don't really know that trauma that they put onto you. And yun nga, now that we look back on it, Snape actually did abuse and traumatize so many kids.
Yeah, I mean, hello,
A lot,
Neville like went through something traumatic by like basically losing his parents at such a young age, and his Bogart was like it was still Snape.
Yeah.
Snape is his
Yeah.
biggest fear. Like, grabe yung trauma sa kanya. Na mas malala pa yun than like his parents going insane.
So teachers, watch out, and future. I mean, yun nga eh. 'Di ba? Knowing what we went through also as kids, and like you never really understand that until you grow up. And
Yeah.
seeing this in parang in a book or in a movie setting kind of
Yeah.
puts you into perspective also about how you want to approach your teaching style or like dealing with children or whatever. That's a nice insight I never thought I would have, but here we are. Pero naalala ko din yun with one of the short films I watched recently. I'm sure Paula's already yung K-drama na movie In My Family, which is also like
Yeah.
teacher trauma in a
Mhm.
sense. And you know that transpired a lot of events in many people's lives, which we will not divulge in this episode. But you know, we know that personally, and we saw that with our own eyes. And that was also because of a teacher who decided to like ruin a kid's life in a sense. So
Yeah.
you know, it's an interesting afterthought after having watched and read Harry Potter in a sense. Yun
I
lang.
mean, if you
Wala
put
na
it that way, if you do put it that way, is he a good character? Yeah, maybe. Like definitely, like the way na he was such a red herring from the very beginning.
Yeah.
Like we were treated to hate this guy so much, and everything he's done shows that. And then suddenly flip the script on him. Na oh, guess what? He's a big hero. He's actually been on the good side all this time. Maybe if you want, you could treat him that way. But if you ask if he's a good person, I don't know. He was pretty mean. Like after everything he's done for 7 years, 7 books.
Yeah.
No, if I was his student, I would never forgive him.
Right?
Like I'd never find a way to like him.
Mm-mm.
Like I don't. Well, I'd like to think. Would there be any Slytherin who doesn't like him? If would, like I don't know. Like, well, I can't see a good I can't see a valid reason why would you call him a good person.
Mm.
Like we were treated. Well, I grew up learning to hate him. And then even if you say he was a good guy, well, I still don't like him as a person.
Yeah. And the fact that Harry named one of his kids after him, paano? Parang it's just,
Yeah,
dude, he traumatized you your whole childhood.
He wants to remember the trauma.
Actually, Harry's like second son is just like, why would you name your child after these two
Yeah,
people?
no, it's just like, bro, the bravest
Please.
people I knew. Those were the bravest people you knew.
Hagrid is shaking. Will always be pro Hagrid talaga.
What about your
I think if
parents?
I
Oh,
add
man,
one
whatever.
thing about Snape, it's just the fact that I think that he also, if Snape did one good thing for us readers, it's that more like critical ability to be able to dissociate a good character from a good person.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think that's one thing that most readers had to learn through Snape. Like, yes, he's a compelling character to read. He had a really interesting backstory, but that doesn't justify any of the trauma he inflicted on other people. And trauma doesn't justify more trauma.
Exactly.
Like, he can't compensate for that all the awful things that happened in his life by forcing it on his students of all people. It also made me wonder, like, Hogwarts hires these people to teach.
Hogwarts does
Yeah.
not screen their teachers well.
They do not.
I'm pretty sure we have all had a teacher in our lives that made us wonder, like, why are you teaching if you hate children or students so much? And I think that idea really stems from Snape. It's like, why would you be in this career if you can't even be kind to your students?
He's such an immature person. Like, imagine being so angry that you didn't get the job that you wanted and having that as a personality trait for so long. Parang, oh, why is Professor Snape so mean? And everyone's answer is, oh, because he wants the DA job and he didn't get it. Like, you're a grown-ass man.
I know,
Get
man.
over it.
Insecure nga daw, di ba?
So, if we talk about all of the characters, we might be here a while. I'd like to get more into the books because that's something we've been talking about for a good while. First, I want to ask what your favorite book is in the series, if you have one. If it's impossible to choose, I
course.
totally understand.
This one I have a quick answer for.
Is it 6?
No, it's 3. I love book 3. I get the feeling that you're probably gonna answer favorite movie as well. I'm just gonna get ahead and say that it's also
Yeah.
my favorite movie. 3 is my favorite book and movie because of one scene that like I think of now and it's just making me teary-eyed just thinking about it.
Okay.
And it's when Sirius first asks Harry to move in with him, and Harry
Yeah.
thinks just for that tunnel, just for them walking through that tunnel, that he's gonna move in with Sirius and he's gonna have finally a dad that accepts him. I can't keep talking about it. I'm gonna cry.
Fair. Oh, I do love that scene so much. I mean, I guess ganun na rin, like favorite book, favorite movie for everyone.
I would.
100%
I'll go
Cholo.
Sorry?
Sell, go.
Sorry. I'm 100% in agreement with Dren. Like, it has to be the third book and the third movie.
Okay.
I
Nice.
think it's because I like the Marauders so much. Like,
Mm.
they have the most interesting story, and I think I'm very partial to the stories in Harry Potter that we don't really know that much about, so we're
Yes.
kind of forced to fill in the blanks for them.
Ako rin, actually, it's a toss-up between book 3. I especially love the mentors aspect. I was like super scared in the movie house or wherever I watched that. Para, that's very horror of them to like do that in the train. I still remember the feeling of like seeing them for the first time. And like, yeah, it's either that or book 4 or movie 4. But parang same, because the Triwizard Cup is just like a spectacle on its own for me to not like enjoy it. And like different schools,
In
different
the World Cup,
types of
Yeah, Quidditch World Cup was fantastic.
Yeah. So yun, that's my answer.
Fern?
it'd be hilarious if you said book 6, but you haven't read it. You're just like, yeah.
Yeah, I just think that will be my favorite.
I like the Fantastic Beasts screenplay joke.
Oh my God.
Lord.
Mamaya na yun. Fern?
For books, I said this before na, I'd say my favorite would be 5. Kasi ang daming
The
nangyari.
thickest
Like,
one.
I guess because I read it again and I'm seeing, there's so much that happened, and I guess so much I can relate to right to the environment right now that's happening right now. The atmosphere that's in that book is so relatable, and it's like when I read each chapter, wala, it's like I feel like the author, no name intended, the author like covered so much ground, like, and there's like so much happening, and like it's compared to like the other books na it just breezes through. And when I was finishing book 5, I never even realized this didn't have Halloween in it.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I didn't even notice that. But and I also agree with Cholo. Like, if it's not 5, I'd say 4 because it has the World Cup and the Triwizard Tournament, and come on, it's sports. Who doesn't like sports, and who doesn't like magical sports? Diba? But if we're talking about movies, I also agree it has to be the third one.
I think
Because
we're
you
just
can
all in
really-
agreement.
We're all in agreement. The third one, because you watch the first one, you watch the second one, but once you get to the third, you see na it can't just be a movie. It can be actually a really good movie.
Yes.
Na and the way na it made it so interesting, like the way it was made. Sobrang nakaka-intriga siya. Like, wow, everything is so beautiful. And I don't know, maybe because they did some changes in telling the story, maybe it was so wow. And that's why when I keep watch, it's probably the only one in the series na if I see it on TV, I'll drop everything, I'll watch it. I have to finish it. I have to give my full attention. It's just so beautiful. Like for me, it's the perfect example of magical.
And I think with the movie timeline, parang that's when they started like growing up. If
It
you
is.
see them
Growing up, yeah.
physically.
I always consider Prisoner of Azkaban as the transition film. And then, like, I mean, not in like the best of ways, that everything just turns a little bit more darker. And you really get to see how terrifying the whole wizarding world can be. Like, you're outside of that whole amazement of this fantastic world that they're living in, and more of the dangers that's in it. So I agree.
The world is a dark place.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Exactly. And the
Which is
fact
why-
that Voldemort was never really that big of a threat in the third film. It was an intriguing discovery of who Sirius Black was, and finding out that, you know, your biggest enemy could just be like close by, which is Pettigrew, and I hope that's just fantastic.
That was such a cool twist.
Right? And Alfonso Cuarón
Yeah, I was about to say.
did his best work with, like, one of his, not even his best work, but did a fantastic job at at the film, right?
That's what, I think that's another reason why, like, they knew that that book was very different from the first 2 books, right?
Yeah.
Despite 2 having a giant snake in it, like 3 was really the one that's like, this is horror. Like,
Yeah,
it could be horror,
Dementors,
which is why they got Coron to do it.
Yeah. My favorite, though, like, book for some weird reason is the 6th. Half-Blood Prince is my favorite book that I can, like, straight up finish that in a day, kahit ilang beses ko na siyang nabasa. And I don't really understand why. I think Horace Slughorn intrigues me a lot as a character, like, with his very ang laki rin ng trauma na meron ni Slughorn, and I think the film didn't really do him justice in that respect of just how terrified he was at the thought that the whole reason why Voldemort cannot be killed and has that much power is because of information that he gave to him as a teenager. You know, that whole struggle, I think, is fascinating. And we deal with the pensieve more as well in the 6th book, and just the idea of being able to sort through your memories and kind of deal with your past and your trauma through that is something I wish I could do. Like, just
Cerebro is
a
shaking.
better yeah. Diba? I don't know why, but yeah, romance aside, because the romance in 6 was horrible. I think it's a fantastic book. But yeah, what scenes from the books did you guys wish were more shown in the films?
Oh,
or-
more pensive. I wanted more
man.
pensive. I wanted more pensive. I
The
wanted
pensive
more
scenes
of
are
that.
great, yeah.
No, because reading 6 and getting to know, we're trying to know about Voldemort. I would have loved to see that, like, actually see it. Like,
Yeah.
and I would love to know Voldemort more, especially seeing his family, how he grew
Yeah.
up to be the person he be. Wala. And see, you know, no, we've always heard about Harry. Like, come on, let's learn about Voldemort some more. I felt like I was robbed of that when they trimmed it down to like 2.5 pensive scenes lang
Yeah.
sa 6. So I wanted that the most.
And they always portray like young Voldemort, at least in the sixth film, na parang sobrang demented na child. When he was never that. Di ba? He's such a charming kid.
Yeah, yeah.
No. He's charming, yeah. Everyone
That's the whole reason like why Tom Riddle got so powerful in the first place, because he's a very charming
You got a really
person.
handsome actor to play him too, which helped. I think.
In the second film, yeah, he was so guapo.
I was
so
like,
guapo.
wow.
But I think that's the point, because if he wasn't good looking and charismatic, no one would have bought into his whole
Yeah.
evil.
It's like the whole serial killer thing,
Yeah.
actually.
No, it's
You're right,
true.
Sal.
Like that's why Ginny was so enamored by the diary in the second book,
Mhm.
because Riddle is a charming,
Right, well,
charming
you know.
person, right?
Well, I mean, he looked like that in number 2, so who wouldn't?
Tama
I
si
would.
Sel
I'd
doon.
write in the diary.
Yeah, there is that aspect of like, diba, serial killers being good looking and that's why people fall for them.
Si,
And it's kind of the
ano
same,
pangalan nito? Ted
Si-
Bundy.
Ted Bundy.
I was gonna say si Zac
Si Zac
Efron.
Efron.
Well, yes.
Sel, I know you wrote something in the document then.
Alright,
Like,
yeah, I did. For me, my biggest disappointment with the films, I think, was I didn't like how they did the last, what was it called? Last challenge in the
Yeah.
Triwizard Tournament.
Ooh,
the
the maze.
It
yes.
was so, like in the film, it was just dark and scary, and they had to
Yeah.
get through it. But then
Yeah.
in the books, you had all these challenges, the Bogart,
Yeah.
and then the fiddle with the
Sphinx.
Sphinx. I felt so robbed. Like after watching it, I was like, where are these things that I was looking forward to? Like they did the one with the dragon and the underwater part pretty okay.
Yes.
But then the maze was just not. They could have put so many more things into it that they didn't, and I think that kind of took away then from the Cedric's death eventually, because you feel like they didn't really do much in the maze anyway.
Mm-mm.
That's
That's
my
true.
Ran
biggest
out of money.
No,
There
and
was
I
this
think like,
whole-
oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say there was this whole build up of Harry and Percy's relationship, and that is like lost now that you mention it. And God, it's just weird how it was just like the maze is alive. Like you guys ran out of money to make like a Sphinx. What happened? I don't get it.
Yeah.
The running time of 4 is already like really long. You might
Yeah.
as well like God, I don't know, whatever.
That's true. But I think like it takes away then, because the films really portray Harry as this dumb jock, and based on how I read the books, naman, I've always felt that Harry's a very skilled person, very intuitive, and the maze challenge really proved that correct, because he got to the middle without any help whatsoever, something that Fleur and Crumb couldn't do, and these were like way older witches and wizards that were supposed to be so much smarter than he was, and this 14-year-old was able to navigate through such an intricate maze and an intricate challenge all by himself. And I just think that Harry's a lot smarter than we kind of portray him as, because everyone just thinks of him as like this Expelliarmus wielding jock. And I love
Stupefy.
him.
No,
That's
Stupefy.
fine also, but I do think that there's a lot more to Harry that the films could have shown, and the maze challenge correctly could have done that a little bit more. Any other scenes that you guys wish were in the films more, or characters? Like Peeves, I think, is something that I wish I
Peeves.
could have seen
Peeves,
more.
yeah.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Right?
I would all
Yeah.
reduced to one name. But
Oh.
yeah, I would have liked to see Peeves.
Yeah.
Especially when he does the salute in 5.
Yes,
that would
to
be-
Fred
that
and
would be so
George.
much fun. Yeah, like he never does that to anyone, not even to the Bloody Baron.
Yeah.
And he does that. I would have loved to see that more than Flitwick doing yes like that. When no one sees him. Yeah,
Si
I would have
Flitwick
loved
na
to see
nag-iba yung
Peeves.
itsura niya as the films progressed, which made
Yeah.
zero sense.
You guys
And
gonna get Warwick.
having Peeves there would have given Filch a lot more to do then, I guess.
True.
In a way.
Yeah.
I think generally, like my thing would be, I love the wand work and the spell work in Harry Potter, and I love that you get all of these spells, and I memorized all of them, and like like you said, you really only see Expelliarmus and the
Yeah.
Vada Kedavra, which is
Expected
really
Patrono.
frustrating. It's so frustrating for me because in 5, wordless casting is supposed to be really difficult because you might mess
Yes.
up the spell, and then they
Yeah.
just stop saying any of the spells.
They-
It's so
Yeah.
frustrating. Because I don't know. For me, that was like the way they describe the wizard duel in book 2 is so interesting. How it's like a
Yes.
battle. It's just like it's a mental battle. It's not necessarily like just who can cast more spells. It's
Yeah.
just so the my biggest frustration is that, especially in 7, right? Like when they have the final epic battle in the Hogwarts grounds, it's just them
No, 7.
shooting anything at each other. So yeah,
That's
it's
true.
really frustrating.
But did you guys ever have like a código at one point of like all the spells and what they meant?
It's hard to reach
I don't know.
right now, but I do have a book called The Unofficial Harry Potter Spell List. So, but there was a time that I did try to like list down everything when I joined my first Harry Potter trivia game. I really felt like that was something I needed to do.
Uh,
But yeah, there's a book if you guys, because
Ayan,
it's
Paula
so
versus
cool.
Ren. Joke.
No, it's so
No,
cool because it has like the yung figures that you need to be able to
Yeah,
draw
yeah.
as well. It's so fascinating. If you're like as appreciative of a fan sa mga ganong bagay, it's a good buy. And it's fan work, not like you're not giving money to Rowling.
She who must not. She who must not.
Ooh.
Win.
No?
Ayun.
Who is she?
I think that's Daniel Radcliffe's pen name.
Sorry,
But-
yeah. It's Daniel Radcliffe pala.
I don't know her.
There was I don't think I could do this now, but there was a time when we had a Harry Potter trivia day also, and we had 5 minutes to list down as many spells as we could, and I think I did 50 plus and just
Love it.
like
Wow.
won the whole thing. But I'm not sure if I could do that now. But that was the level that I reached at one point.
I will host a Harry Potter trivia game one of these
Ooh.
days with everyone here, and
Oh,
let's
goodness.
just
Gotta
see
read the books
what
again.
happens.
Napanalunan
Stop
kong
screaming
ganyan.
at each other.
Ano lang, funny kwento. Was like, I was in like a trivia game of multiple like fandoms, and
Mm-mm.
parang one of the final questions were, name all 12 members of New Directions.
Wow. Nice.
So there. That's my version of that.
Glee and High School Musical are your Harry Potter.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, inversely naman to like scenes that we were upset that we didn't see in the films, are there scenes in the books that you're kind of glad that they didn't really flesh out as much? Or things that you felt were a little unnecessary when reading the books, or something that traumatized you siguro when reading that you're kind of okay not seeing on the big screen?
I have an answer to this. Recently, I realized that something that was really disturbing about Harry Potter was the Grey Lady story.
Yes.
I think they only passed like it was only in passing in the films, but I realized that it's terrifying that the Grey Lady is tethered to the same place as the guy who assaulted her.
Yeah,
aka the
forever.
Bloody Baron. Forever. So imagine like every day she has to see the guy who assaulted and murdered her. And I was wondering, like, wow, that was in a kid's book, and I think that maybe that should have been the first sign that the author was he wanted her to do. So yeah, I realized like that's not. I don't even have the word for it, but like that's actually terrifying. That's a really terrifying thought that the source of your trauma is with you forever.
Yeah, it is scary. I remember like when you brought that up for the first time with me, I couldn't stop thinking about it for so long because it's so true. Parang just seeing your abuser once could be like a traumatizing experience for one person, but to see them every day and for eternity, diba, with no escape, I can't.
Does she like avoid him?
We don't really know much. There's not much in the book.
What's
but
a
then-
fanfic?
I mean, in
Right.
fanon, I'm sure like she avoids him, but yeah.
That's really scary. I mean, I didn't realize it until like during quarantine, when I think I was discussing Harry Potter with another friend, and it's like, oh no, that's not something for children to read.
Yeah, agree.
Sorry, ang dark no thought.
No, yeah, but it's
No,
a
I think that's the
good
point,
thing to
though,
bring
right?
up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, I might be getting ahead of the program, but the cursed child, that's it. We're gonna talk about
Oh, we're
it
gonna
later.
talk about that later. Yeah, it's a different thing, but naman.
Yeah, it's a different medium rather.
But I guess like with regards to like the first 7 books, the epilogue, do you guys like it, or do you think it's kind of unnecessary? Because I'm kind of on that train, that I legitimately don't think it needed to exist. I was kind of happy with where the books ended, like with the war. Yeah.
I
I
think
like
it
to pretend
depends
it's
on the
optional.
Sorry, go Sel.
I just wanted to say that I like to pretend it's optional because I think if I mean if I were the writer of these books, I would have kept it a lot more open-ended, knowing how active the fandom is.
Mhm.
I'm sure that the writer, I don't want to name her, is aware of how intense the fans are about writing their own story. So why would you make something so close-ended that they couldn't really work with? Although, of course,
I mean, fans will find a way.
like we'll keep going anyway. But I think it would have been a lot more. It seems like such a disservice to her fans to make it so close-ended.
Mm-mm.
That's true. I think it really depends kasi on the treatment you do eh. Like for example, Parks and Recreation had this whole last episode of the future on what the future would look like. And
Yeah.
that was really great. And we really appreciated that. But what Sel was saying, parang it is something that you could just like post on the internet and just like, oh, here's a bonus thing that I wrote that you might or might not like. But to have it as canon kind of like ruins the allure of what could be what, and that kind of set the precedent for book 8, quote unquote, story 8 and whatever. So parang yeah, I agree with Sel on that.
It's funny to me how Harry named his children as if he were a Harry Potter fan himself. You know, like that's just
like
generally
crappy
what
fan
it
fiction.
felt like. And I remember seeing this post on Reddit, I think, or someone who bought book 7 for the first time and snuck a peek at like the last few pages before reading everything else. Saw this line that said, and then Ginny kissed Albus, and then she closed the book and was like, what a wild ending. What?
Wow. Oh God.
So
He comes back just to steal Harry's girl.
so it's just so funny to me. And again, like I really think Harry could have named his second son in particular a lot better.
I mean, James Sirius. I like that name.
I do.
It's good.
Yeah.
I like. It's a really nice name. And then
Yeah.
and then a daughter, Lily Luna.
Lily Luna.
It's cute. It's
Okay.
really cute. But I can't like back then I didn't think of it much, but now I look at it now. In the first place, why would you call your child Albus in like at all?
Why do you hate your child?
At all? Like this is at all. Like he was born 2000s na siguro, right?
Yeah.
You will never find another kid with that name at all.
He's a Gen Zer.
How much how much of an inspiration did those two guys make for you to name your middle child and the only one who inherits your eyes? Like I don't know. It's weird. I just stick na, James Sears is a nice name. I'll stick to that na lang. That's all. I'll just stick to that notion. He's not that stupid in naming his children.
I saw a meme of a fan that said, "I named you after the bravest person I know, Harry Potter. Me, I'm the best. Don't forget it." God, yeah. I mean, I disagree with so many things about the epilogue. Like, I don't think like Harry would have been an Auror.
I know. We will get into that later on.
I don't think you should have named this kid like Albus Severus. I think what do you call this? I think Draco should have been like way more like upstanding instead of like this brooding like emo kid. Still
Yeah.
like just sad dude. I don't know. There's some things about it that was just like so frustrating that I think I agree. It's optional. It doesn't exist to me. What are you guys talking about? I don't know.
So I mean, I guess like we could. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Sal.
I didn't get to say it when we were talking about the characters, but I am not a big fan of Dumbledore.
No, same. It's
Same.
a hard same. Yeah.
Like, I'm sure I'm going to be attacked by like Dumbledore apologists, but I really think that he disguised a lot of his abusiveness under that old wise man archetype that he fulfills in the novels.
Yes.
But then, I mean, he basically used Harry as a pawn for a lot of.
It's very
for a lot of-
manipulative.
He
Yeah.
did.
He was very manipulative, and if you look at what happened in Fantastic Beasts, it turns out that Harry wasn't his first victim. Like apparently,
Oh shit.
his child after him. It's just it feels so insulting to the other people that were brave, that were also very brave, and like the other good figures in Harry's life, like Hagrid.
Like Hagrid.
Hagrid. And then So that's why I just feel like I think we give too much credit to Dumbledore and not realize that he was actually not a very good person to Harry to begin
Agree.
with.
Like
Yeah.
Dumbledore is no Gandalf.
Looking back on like when Harry sees him in the station when he dies,
Yeah.
and Dumbledore starts crying. I was like, good. What the fuck, bro?
Why
I
couldn't
don't
it have
know.
been his mom or something? I don't know.
Yeah, I know. His parents. I mean, his parents appeared in 4, but like, or Sirius. I don't know, man. Like he was such a, like you mentioned it a while ago. Also, where it's like they don't know how to screen their professors. It's like probably because Dumbledore was headmaster. He was
Because
just, like,
Dumbledore was a
hiring-
headmaster, that's
It's
why, yes.
true.
He hired Quirrell. He hired like he let Snape do whatever.
And
Oh
like
man.
just leaving Harry for all of those years with an abusive family that he knew
Yeah.
would never like love him and take
Yeah.
care of him. Yeah, like McGonagall should have just like taken Harry away, TBH, at like the start.
Yeah. Oh, she was probably an amazing headmaster
Right?
afterwards.
Oh, I love her also.
Dumbledore
yeah.
didn't stand up for Sirius either. Like,
Diba?
I mean,
Yeah.
For someone with so
I
much
wish
influence in the
Dumbledore
ministry.
could have done something like as a witness or something. I don't know if it's my
Yeah.
law student self coming out, but yeah, I mean, he could have totally defended Sirius at the time. That's why I'm really, really angry that Harry named his child after.
Agree.
And he's like the greatest wizard alive, and he feels so useless.
It's true. And not even like giving Harry any like clues as to what he should do after he finds the Horcruxes. Parang he's
Yeah.
just so like, sige,
Good luck.
mamamatay na ako. Bahala na si Harry kung anong gagawin niya moving forward. I'm like, what? What? Okay. But I mean, we talked a lot about Albus Severus. We might as well get into the spin-off series that have happened from Harry Potter. So the first being The Cursed Child. Do you guys treat it as canon or as fanon? I personally think it's a badly written fanfic with like
Agreed.
a few good spots here and there, but generally I think it's just badly written. I've yet to see the actual play.
Yeah.
It's cool
Parang-
that Hermione gets to be black. That's cool.
Yeah.
Mm.
But I agree with Paula. Like, reading that thing was like, what is this? It's like, who wrote this? Literally. Kasi parang, kung ano-ano na lang yung ginawang whatever para ma-push yung story. Like, halatang cash grab na lang at that
The
point.
fact that Voldemort has a child is
Yeah.
messed up. And with Bellatrix pa talaga.
Yeah, exactly. At that point, when I heard that, I haven't read it personally because that's what I heard. It's like, oh, Voldemort had a kid with Bellatrix. I was like, this is like a Harry Potter musical, but not funny. It's
Right?
like really serious.
Totoo.
So yeah, it doesn't exist to me. It's not even fan fiction.
I mean, I would watch it for the spectacle of it.
I'd still watch it, yeah.
Yeah,
Probably
but
watch the
like,
first
I
one.
don't really respect it as like part of canon. It's more like a random production that exists na official, pero not
Mm-mm.
like part of the whole story because it just didn't really like. I just really didn't enjoy the whole story or like what decisions went into the
Yeah.
story, the narrative itself. Except yung nga, tama nga si Dren. Parang the fact that they made the Hermione black and like the whole explanation as to why that could exist on stage was really good.
I read something, not necessarily to counter that, but it's we understand why people thought it was difficult, kind of found it difficult to accept why like a black Hermione, and it's because she never went through any of the struggles that a black person would have, like in the narrative of
Yeah.
Harry Potter
Ooh.
itself. You know, because aside from being a Muggle-born witch, there are so many injustices in the world just for being a person of color, and she
Yeah.
never goes through that in the story. So J.K. Rowling can espouse that defense all she wants, but she never wrote Hermione as a person of color.
Yeah,
So
That's
Yeah.
true.
yeah. For me naman, like as bad as Cursed Child is, and it is really bad, if there's anything that I like about it, it's how it portrayed Draco. Because the epilogue Draco, the 19 years later Draco was the standoffish character that, you know, Harry doesn't really talk much with, discuss much with in the epilogue. But
Mary's
the
pansy, which
Draco,
doesn't make sense. Sorry.
yeah.
Keep going.
But the Draco in Cursed Child was everything that I think Draco could be if they developed his character a lot more in the narrative. He is such a good father to Scorpius, which is very surprising and something I absolutely loved about Rico. Sobrang supportive niya of Scorpius, and he really made an effort to like be friends with Harry, given like how close his son was to him, to Harry's son, and all of that. And I really did appreciate that narrative in the book, in Cursed Child. And Hermione being Minister of Magic, I thought that was great also because I definitely could see that happening and how driven Hermione was in the Cursed Child, despite all of the bad plot lines. So what about Fantastic Beasts? The two movies had come out. Did you guys enjoy it as much as you did the first 8 films?
I mean, the moment I knew they were making a movie, I knew it was just for money. So
Yeah.
I just said, okay, I'll give it a chance to see. I mean, I guess it's Eddie Redmayne, so maybe he could do something about it. But and then I realized, and then especially when the second movie came out, oh yeah, this is all just a money grab.
Mm-mm.
I was like, I don't think I would, if I was young again and I watched this, I don't know if I'd enjoy it as much, especially since it's revolving around an actual wizarding war.
Yeah.
So maybe I wouldn't understand it. I wouldn't appreciate it as much. So
Mm-mm.
inisip ko lang, it's okay. They're just doing this for money.
I actually enjoyed it because I like
Both
mga
of them?
supplementary stories. Not the second
The
film.
judgment.
Okay, there we go.
I mean, yeah. The first one was like really, I mean, Hufflepuff representation more than anything is great to have Newt as like that person. But yun nga, the second movie was like, what the hell was this?
Yeah.
Parang coming from the first movie na, wow, okay, this is a new world, quote unquote new world, and like especially the fact that technology has really like evolved from the first movie to seeing Fantastic Beasts, the first one.
Yeah.
Parang that was like a really big level up and step up na parang, oh wow, you can actualize the wizarding world even further with technology this time around. But the second movie was like, where did this come from? Parang everything just came out of nowhere. And sana,
Destroyed her own canon.
I know,
if they
right?
still if they
Yeah.
continue to do it, I mean, if they will continue to do it, I hope the last 3 movies do it well or better.
There are 3 more movies. Oh God.
Frustrates me
Yeah.
talaga that they got
She
David
signed a
Yates.
5-movie deal.
My
Oh,
gosh.
Lord.
And I think, yeah, sige, go, Sel.
Sorry, I was just gonna say that the second film, the fact that Eddie Redmayne's charm couldn't save that film,
Says
says a
a
lot
lot.
about how terrible it was. And I have a very specific hatred for that second film because they did that scene with Dumbledore as Defense Against the Dark Arts.
Oh.
Doing
Okay.
Remus's.
I was so mad. I was like, how dare they take this away from Remus? That's Remus Lupin's scene. And then they make it like, oh, he learned it from Dumbledore and then he recreated it for his students. I'm like, no,
No.
And Dumbledore was a transfiguration
He was a
teacher.
yeah.
that's
he was
another point.
It really ruined like its own canon, which doesn't make any sense to me at
Choices
all.
were made.
Yeah.
Her choices. Wasn't she the sole screenwriter?
Yeah, she
For the
was.
second
Yes.
See? So,
I feel
So I
like
was
they
like,
would have
you-
done a
you-
lot better if it was Steve Clovis still.
Steve Cloves, which is
Yeah.
I think why they got him to help out, because she really can't do it. She really can't. She really can't.
Self-destruction lang
A
talaga.
ridiculously good cast too. Eddie Redmayne, Dan Fowler,
Jude Law.
Jude
Yeah.
Law, Zoe Kravitz, Johnny Depp. Like, how did you mess
Mess
this
it
That
up?
up.
Yeah, exactly. Well, David Yates, I think, has a lot to blame. Takes a lot of the blame. I really do not like him as a director. His films were probably the ones I least enjoyed in the series. So there's that. But like the one of the few things that I liked about Fantastic Beasts, the first one, second one, I really just dislike with a burning passion.
Yeah.
Is Newt. I think, and Cholo delved into to that a little bit. Aside from the Hufflepuff representation, I think Newt presents a completely different kind of protagonist, a male protagonist that's completely different than any we've ever seen because he's very soft and very gentle, and that's his whole. Like that's the core of his character. He's a good person, but not in a "I will fight" kind of way. He is really I want to keep the peace and take care
Yeah.
of the things that I love in a very gentle way. And I think that's something that more men should be exposed to know that like being a man is not just like confined into these very violent characteristics which most male protagonists possess. So I do love that about Newt, and I really like in the first one how much of the creatures we were able to see, because that's something is why I bought the book Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them in the first place as a textbook, because it's more about like the wizarding world itself outside of Harry and the war and all of that stuff, which is fascinating. I mean, it's magic. Why wouldn't we be interested? So,
Those textbooks were really nice.
yeah, 'di ba? So, ayun, parang I like that aspect of it. But generally, yeah, J.K. Rowling kind of writes her own doom when it comes to these things for some reason.
And Twitter.
And
I have a fun fact about that. In the first movie, there's supposed to be a shot in the original script. There's a shot where Newt takes off his shirt and he like in his zoo in his suitcase, and you see like all these scars on his body. It's like this muscular guy, and you realize that like, oh, it must have been hard to like tame all of these animals. But I think they took it out specifically because of the reason you said, that they didn't want him to be like this badass like dude. So
yeah.
Eddie Redmayne worked out for nothing, which is why he like talked about that scene.
Okay lang yan. We appreciate the work, Eddie. Even if we didn't
And
see.
Eddie Redmayne seemed so happy to be in the movie. Like, I remember watching the first movie, and you can feel him radiating joy that he's in a Potter
Yeah.
film.
Yes.
I think that's what actually carried the first film more than anything. was
Because it
really
had that
Eddie
love for magic.
happy with it.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
so true.
Oh, that's great. But
Sorry
we
for that. That sucks because Eddie Redmayne must be so sad.
I know.
Yeah.
Oh well.
God, he had to like argue with she who must not be named.
I mean, we're there with She Who Must Not Be Named, so there's a lot of issues. As much as we love Harry Potter, I think we're all aware of like a lot of big issues surrounding Harry Potter itself, like starting with the content, like more like other than the writer's own issues. So the first one that I wrote down here was the lack of inclusivity and diversity in the Harry Potter universe itself. So Potter's so white is what I placed here, coming from Oscar's so white. There wasn't really any reason for the films to cast like an exclusively all Caucasian cast, but that's what they seem to have done. And the characters themselves, like we only explicitly know a handful of people of color in the series, and one of them has two last names as her name, Cho Chang. Like she couldn't even do her own research to find like actual Korean names. God, and the amount of research she did for all of the other things just doesn't make sense. And the Patel twins are kind of parang hindi rin enough yung characters na to. Dean Thomas, even if he was Harry's classmate throughout all of those years, didn't really make much of an impact. So it kind of saddens me that this world that preaches about like accepting everyone, regardless of your background, which is what Harry does a lot, doesn't have these, people of color to kind of back up that sentiment.
I guess it comes with the time then, more than anything. I don't know. Because right now, we already have all these, parang we've learned so much from the last few years. But I guess it speaks more on JK than anyone else. And like how she wrote the story then, na parang, syempre, to us younglings, that didn't really matter in the 2000s,
naman.
early 2000s eh. Pero ngayon that you look back, it's like those movies that they show on streaming with the disclaimer that this media
The
are
Warner
like
The
a
Brothers.
product
Warner
of their
Brothers
own
one.
time. Parang ganon. But I guess that's kind of like how I'm viewing this issue.
Yeah.
I mean, you could do better for sure, but yeah.
Yeah. But there's also racism in Harry Potter, like outside of just them all being white. Like, for example, goblins being a stereotype for Jewish people. And that's how it was really read as na these hook-nosed, greedy individuals, which were how like Jews were very much represented for the longest time. So there was that. And not to mention classism in Harry Potter as well.
Oh, yeah.
Like house elves, the existence of house elves really kind of makes my skin crawl, because it's they're slaves, diba? And it frustrates me how accepted that notion is in the wizarding world. When Hermione tries to fight for it, parang judge pa siya ng ibang tao. Parang, why are you
Yeah.
doing that? They like to work, they don't want to be paid, ganyan ganyan. And parang J.K. Rowling just kind of makes fun of that aspect of, you know, the issue. And of course, there's like half-bloods, purebloods, muggleborns, and squibs. And with the wizarding world's condescension about all things muggle, parang anytime that they try to do things the muggle way, you can very clearly see like the disdain that people have. And squibs seen as lesser than, citizens, which is the root of Filch's anger problems in general. So ayun, I think like sayang kasi yung wizarding world, because there isn't enough integration between the muggle and wizarding world of it all. And that hurts particularly muggle-born children, I
Yeah.
think. Ayun. And of course, let's do AAAB, or all horrors are bastards, because we can't say ACAB. I agree with what Dren said earlier, that I never believed that Harry would have become an Auror after everything talaga that the ministry had done to him, to the people
Better
he
become a
loves.
police officer.
Right? Particularly Sirius and Remus Lupin. And he chooses to be a cop. What do you guys think about that?
Should have been a teacher.
Agree.
Yeah. And man, like I think like on the with J.K. Rowling's writing. Oh God, I said her name. She's gonna come out of my closet. But ask me for like copyright or something. I don't know. But it's very tokenistic. That's how it feels. Like she just like puts in these like sprinkles of like, oh yeah, like Dean Thomas was was ganito, or like the House of Hermione Granger like fights with them, and Ron joins her at the end. But it doesn't. It feels like maybe Cholo's right. It's a product of its time, but it feels like at this point, if you're going to talk about an issue, you have to be very sure that you go all in with it,
Yeah.
rather than just
Yeah.
like,
Exactly.
yeah, better just throw this in so that people don't get mad. That's what it feels like now. And like you could say it's a product of its time, but it's like, it's not like it's ever okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
So,
knowing the political landscape now, she could very well correct or explain more about these things, but she
yeah.
chooses not to.
She doesn't
Dumbledore is
have to
another
write.
issue as well, parang queer baiting.
She doesn't have to write. Yeah, she
Yeah,
doesn't have to
she's
write
like,
more
Dumbledore's
stuff on
gay.
it. Like she doesn't need to write a whole new series about it.
Yeah.
Or like she touched on these topics, and with the platforms we have right now, the very least you could do is, okay, you have lots of time on your hands now. Expand the wizarding world in a way that everyone can feel na, oh, you didn't just brush them off like this way.
Yeah.
You said it for a reason, and for a very good reason.
Yeah.
Pero sige, going back to
Sorry,
about
go on.
Harry. Sige, Sal, go. Yeah, go ahead, Sal, if you're gonna
No, I was just going to say that basically we're talking about the fact that there are these issues that weren't really fleshed out in the books. It's particularly dangerous that she made Harry an Auror, because an Auror is somebody who perpetuates the status quo.
Yeah.
Because you work for the government, you're part of the people who police other people. So if your main character who tried to fight against evil for 7 books suddenly becomes that person who enforces the law that that really failed him throughout the 7 books, I think that's particularly dangerous, because you're just perpetuating like that very negative status quo. And the fact that it's very personal to him, the way that the system had hurt him, especially because of Sirius. I really think that the system failed Sirius most of all. And and Remus, of course. So I think that they should have given Harry a more, I know that like J.K. She said something like Harry would try to transform the ministry or something like that, but I don't think that's enough to really justify the decision. And I think a friend of mine said that maybe what Harry could have done had he gone into government service was not necessarily to join the Aurors or the police force or whatever, but maybe some kind of department that would help better integration of Muggle-born children.
Yes.
Because Harry was born in a Muggle household, so and he saw how difficult life was for Hermione, how she was looked down upon by a lot of people. So maybe that's the kind of help Harry would do to fix the system.
Yeah. I've read so many fanfics where Harry's job is like a Muggle liaison, and I think that's just it's funny to me how the fans understand these characters a lot more than the author herself. So, but I like that we're all in agreement that Harry should not have been a cop. I think that's wonderful to hear.
Maybe he quit na at this point in his midlife.
Yeah, I'm pretty
Maybe,
sure.
yeah.
Like, I'm pretty sure. Kasi, because like, how I think it kasi, like, is there any other dark wizards left to capture? Like,
Well, they're
realistically.
in the real world right now.
Pero diba, like, kasi how, ito, like, this is how I saw it out. And when he was interviewed back then in number 5, what he wanted to be, he was just introduced to Kingsley and Tonks,
Tonks.
and said, oh, so these are people na who catch dark wizards. And of course, what the thing in his mind is, okay, there's a war against
Yeah.
against Voldemort. So the number one thing on his mind is gonna be, okay, I wanna get all the dark wizards. I wanna catch all of them. But can you if you think about it, can you really be a person like that when the very institution that who controls them is against you, was
Yeah.
never with you in the first place? And then for some reason, at the end of it all, Kingsley just takes him on to join the Auror office. And I don't know how much. The only thing left to do is to capture every other Death Eater that's still out there.
Yeah.
So being an Auror doesn't make any, for me lang, it doesn't make any sense anymore.
Mm-mm.
That's why I was when it made much more sense for me when the author said na Harry went back to teach every now and then. Okay, so why could he just do that more often now? Because wala. For me, being an Auror doesn't make sense anymore. Like,
Yeah.
wala.
Maybe
It's all
that's
good
where
now.
he is now nga. Nagtuturo na lang.
Yeah.
I'd
Pero
like to
kasi
think.
maybe it's
And
really, ano parang the idealism when you're a fresh graduate of like, oh, I want to change
No, but
things. I
even
don't
with
know.
that, like, imagine Harry coming fresh from a war and wanting to continue this, like, stream of violence when
Yeah.
we as readers know how tired and how frustrated he was with all of that. He never wanted to be part of the whole war in the first place. So, yun mismo eh. Parang it's hard to think of any situation where Harry would have continued this this violent side of the world when all he wants is peace, like, for himself. So I would have rathered even for him to become a Quidditch player, a professional Quidditch
yeah,
player,
Like
diba?
home dad.
Ooh,
yeah.
Something
Do
for
that's solid.
something
himself.
Quidditch related. Yeah.
Ayun.
Stay at home dad Harry.
You could also
Ooh.
see that. It's
Parang he was so done with everything. Nag-Netflix na lang siya or some wizard counterpart of Netflix.
Ooh.
the Wizarding
It
Wireless.
took a break after all of
Net
that.
whiz.
I really think
Exactly.
that needs to the break.
Okay. I mean, we tried to avoid talking about her, but we have to talk about the author of the series, given her very recent.
Daniel Radcliffe. Oh, what?
No, we love Daniel Radcliffe, but the author's very recent issues. So she unfortunately already has a history with queer baiting and using the LGBTQ community for her own benefit, with Dumbledore in particular. Because it never made sense to me also why she would just like drop that, fact that Dumbledore is gay when nothing about his character, seems to have that idea of it. And she never really follows through with that with that statement either. And her transphobic tweets, like the recent issue wasn't even the first time she's tweeted anything transphobic. I think the first one that I remember seeing was mid 2019, when I forget the British personality that they were talking about, but she didn't agree that this trans woman could use the women's restroom, and that alone like sparked a lot of debate. And I heard she was approached by so many like queer publications and queer people to try to explain the situation to her, and it was reportedly like she turned them all away, like she basically just did not want to inform herself of the issue. Do you guys remember like what your thoughts were at the time when you first saw the transphobic tweets or statements?
I mean, I guess it speaks for itself that the way we
Yeah.
sound right now is very disappointing, syempre. Syempre, yun nga, it changed a lot of people's lives and about inclusivity in some sense and like fighting for other people's rights and like being like Dumbledore's army in a sense. And then you have this that kind of retracts everything in a sense
Mm-mm.
on her end at the very least. But you know, the fandom end is quite different because they still recognize the work but not the author anymore. I mean, I guess that's the sentiment naman of a lot of people.
Yeah.
Especially for you guys who are like really huge Potterheads. I'm sure mas malaki yung impact talaga.
Yeah.
You po,
Unfortunately, yeah.
Go
Yes.
ahead, Ren.
Oh, unfortunately, I feel like it becomes more common as we become more aware of the world, especially now with the situation outside. We don't really have any choice but to kind of look at things, and I think that's why a lot of these like issues are popping up. I'm not saying that the issue wouldn't have popped up if we weren't stuck inside, but
Yeah.
I do think that it's good that we're all examining these things, and it's becoming more common, yeah, where you like will love something, like in the film industry. It's I wouldn't say common, but it happens fairly often where you'll watch like an old film, like Woody Allen's movies or something,
Yes.
and then you find out that he is like this major douchebag,
Yeah.
and it's kind of like that's kind of how I feel about this also, where it's like I can't believe I learned all of these wonderful things because of your books, and
Yeah.
you don't seem to understand it. It's
Yeah.
like it just makes me question, like I don't understand how she could write about it and not
Reach
know.
it. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, so what does that say, like, about the books? I guess.
Yeah.
Are there values in the books, or was it just coincidence and we all read into it, and the values are just existent in our heads? Does that make any sense?
Mm.
yeah.
And it's frustrating because it makes me not want to like the books anymore, because it's that frustrating um to have something you love so much be tainted by such a horrible thought.
Yeah.
And it's just blows my mind that she's like, elves and goblins exist in my world, but I draw the line at trans people. Like, what? So yeah.
I think Daniel Radcliffe put it very well in his statement regarding the trans issue, that once the books or the series come to you, they are your own. Like, the author is dead. Something that I firmly believe in as well. Um, that it's up to us how we interpret the things that we consume, and that's valid regardless of what the creator says or not. I love the fact that Harry Potter has evolved past the need of the author. Like, we really do not need her for the series to survive and be still be relevant in our lives. And yeah, I'm also very happy that the golden trio, Rupert Grint, Emma Watson, and Daniel Radcliffe, took very firm stances on their beliefs in trans rights, because as the people who portrayed these very important characters, hearing their voice in support of the trans community was just very much appreciated, and particularly Daniel Radcliffe and Emma Watson, who constantly do like close work with the trans communities. Yeah.
And it's nice nga that people are taking a stand. Like, it showed na there was some value into it, as Jen was saying na did the fans create this value into the fandom?
Yeah.
And parang yun nga, it's nice that, it can stand on its own, and that, these people, yun nga, it's also about, that whole aspect of utang na loob na laging sinasabi ng mga Pilipino na wala kang utang na loob, whatever, whatever. But like, at the end of the day, you grow as people, and like for the golden trio, as Paula was saying, it's nice for them to like stand firm about it and say na, um I'm very grateful for the experience. I wouldn't be here without you right now, but without that experience, but the fact that they grew up and like stood up for what they actually believed in without like parang erasing the utang na loob aspect of it as well. It's just really nice to see na, this is how we should go about things. Na, for older people, it's always like, ano ba yan? Wala ka naman utang na loob, di
Or
ba? Or
bastos
like,
ka. Oo.
yeah, parang you owe me this much because I trained you, whatever, or what. Mga ganung bagay na parang, it's just nice that these young people are showing the way for all the young people out there who are, scared of going against the what was established before and who established your life. It's just that we all move on, we all grow up, and it's nice that this is the fandom response and this is how it's gonna happen.
Yeah, bouncing off of that, I think one of the most impactful effects of J.K. Rowling's tweets were MuggleNet.com. I don't know if you guys are familiar with it, but it's the biggest and the longest running Harry Potter fan site ever. Publicly denounced the J.K. Rowling. They showed like a video of them unfollowing her account across all platforms and provided the statement supporting trans rights and a week long support of the trans community where all of their content was basically trans focused. And I think to have that pillar of like Harry Potter fandomness, take a stance on this was also very important to me, as someone who followed like that site for such a long time. And it's really good to seeing the fandom being independent of the author. It's just nice to me.
If I may add something to that also,
Oh.
I think that the concept of death of the author, like Roland Barthes, has been around for a very long time. But I think this is the first time, but correct me if I'm wrong, that a fandom has collectively killed the author.
Yes.
Yeah.
And interestingly, the way that it was done was what we learned from her books is actually why we had to kill the author. So imagine like something you wrote is what motivated people to not listen to you anymore. I think that's such an interesting phenomenon, given that I think our generation is a lot more knowledgeable and a lot more sensitive to these issues than the generation of J.K. Rowling. But it's kind of crazy thinking about how we learned how to fight for inclusivity and how to fight for certain things because of Harry Potter. Because Harry Potter like started the DA, fought in a war, and everything like that. And that's precisely why we felt that we didn't need the author anymore.
Okay. Does anyone else have anything to add? No. Okay. But like moving forward, I guess it's hard for me to imagine any of us not continuing being fans of the series, fans of Harry Potter. But how do we continue to support Harry Potter without supporting Rowling? It's about supporting the author.
Ang hirap it's like a loaded question.
Yeah.
It's so uncertain,
Yeah.
Like we don't even know what the next movies, when they will come out, or like not just Harry Potter, but like movies in general, right? But yeah, maybe ikaw, Paula, what do you think about it?
It's also very hard for me, as again you guys can see I'm a collector of merch, of fandom related things, and it's going to be very difficult moving forward trying to continue to be this obsessed with the series physically without like knowing, without actively like financially supporting J.K. Rowling. I think something that I will strive to do more is, if I want merch, I'll try to buy fan created merch more than like official licensed merchandise, because she will get royalties from those. But there are going to be things that I would like to purchase that will be licensed for sure. I think I'll have, this is all very personal because it's something I've been reflecting on for a couple of weeks now, to be more decisive about which things I will buy, because I'm a collector, so there was a completionist aspect in me before that I needed everything, as in everything. Now I think that won't be the case, and I think I'll also strive harder not to purchase any published books that she could come out with. So any special editions of the books moving forward, I probably won't buy anymore, which hurts my soul because I was collecting the visual novel versions of the series, but I might stop doing that now. It's also going to be hard for me to say that I will never go to Wizarding World anymore because she also gets money from that. But wala, it's very hard. I think we just always have to be aware of what she's done and never stop talking about what's right, what we believe is right um uh, in terms of the trans community and all of these things that are problematic in the works and in what she says. So yeah. Heat up. When I was writing this question, I knew it was going to be a difficult answer for everybody.
Because
I think
debate
I have
naman ni Paula lagi eh. Parang, should I buy this? And my answer is like, is that a question? But like with this Harry Potter specifically, yeah, Sel, what you were saying.
perspective would be that, as I mentioned earlier, again, correct me if I'm wrong, this is the first time that this big fandom like collectively killed the author. So we can say that it's unprecedented for now. So I think people shouldn't be too hard on themselves yet to not really have the next step into thinking how we can start supporting her, because it's never really happened before. I don't even think there are a lot of things that have reached the scale of Harry Potter that this kind of conversation would have to happen. It's not like when certain artists were outed as rapists or people who sexually assaulted in the past, like Chris Brown, R. Kelly, where we can just stop streaming their music so that they wouldn't get royalties. This is a completely different thing. So I think it's still a growing conversation between the members of the fandom to see where do we go from here, because it's never happened before.
Yeah.
So not naman saying we should stop talking about it, but let's see muna where it plays out, kasi we don't really have any basis to say yet what we should be doing. So and I know that this fandom is like really actively trying to remove J.K. Rowling's influence. So I think we'll see in the coming years how we can navigate this better.
Like the closest I'm seeing, closest to this phenomenon is probably like episode 9 of Star Wars, which is like very divisive for everyone. But
Why
not
do
as-
we always go back to
Yeah, I mean-
episode 9 of Star Wars in our podcast?
I know. It's just that like I know, and I guess Game of Thrones season 8, those like two big
But that wasn't.
finales.
I mean, yeah.
But it's not like as intricate as the whole. There, I have a theme park. I have more spin-offs coming. Mga ganun.
And it's more of like disappointing
Yeah, exactly.
media
It's
rather
not-
than like
Yeah.
It's not like
It's not a problem. It's more of like, oh, it was disappointing, but it's not like we want
a
to
big. Yeah.
literally sever ties with.
yeah,
this
there's
person
no
because
like
they're
political
being
implications
evil.
of the Rise of Skywalker being a bad movie.
That's true.
Diba?
Yeah. That's why yun nga, parang yun na yung closest na naiisip ko. Pero yun nga, tama nga si Sel about that na parang, what now?
I trust the fandom naman to think of something. I mean, also, I have no concrete answer. But I think given that it's an unprecedented event, we really have to navigate this slowly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's okay. I mean, we mentioned that. Oh, it's not okay, but like, I think. How do I put this? It will like it's not to say that like there's a silver lining, because there really isn't, but
Yeah.
it is wonderful to see how like united everyone is, not just the fans, but like everyone is. Like Eddie Redmayne came out with a statement, right?
Yeah, he did.
About how incorrect she is. So she's just like a boomer lady that we don't have to mind anymore.
Yeah.
Agree. Okay. So thank you guys for this really great discussion on I know like a lot of people's favorite fandom. And as our typical closing on popcorn, I'd like to ask what your top picks and recommendations are for anything pop culture that you've consumed this week. I can go first, I guess.
Sorry.
It's all right. Okay, so because we talked about the media of Harry Potter a lot and the implications of it all, I want to recommend a couple of video essay channels on YouTube that really get me thinking about all of these things. I have 3 to recommend, and they all focus on various aspects of pop culture. So the first is Nerdstalgic, and he focuses a lot on nostalgia of the things that we loved growing up, whether it's cartoons that we grew up loving or the sitcoms that we consumed as children and as teenagers, and why they work and what episodes particularly made or broke these particular series. I think he's really great. His editing work is fantastic. The next one is Sideways. He's probably one of the few video essayists I know that focus solely on music, on like the soundtrack aspect of films and media in general. And he recently just came out with a video on Avatar: The Last Airbender, on how parallel the music for Zuko is to Aang's. And I've never like really thought about that, and I'm very interested in watching that. And the last one is called Pop Culture Detective. His video essays are a lot longer than most, I'd like to think, but he provides POVs that I think not a lot of YouTubers would like to delve into. He's actually how I realized Newt's character being such an important and different kind of male protagonist. That's through one of his videos, and it's all very well thought out and well researched, all of their work. So I highly recommend these three video essayists. And for music, I have one recommendation as well. I've been watching Haikyuu again, and I would really like to recommend the band Burnout Syndromes, because they're Japanese, so all of their songs are in Japanese. But grabe, as in like, if you need hype music, I highly suggest Fly High by Burnout Syndromes. If you're not hyped up by that song, ewan ko na.
And when did like non-English music stop us from listening? I mean, for most people.
Yeah, that's true. But I think like more people are into Korean music than they are to Japanese. So
Yeah, that's true.
It's me.
I will go next. I'm not sure kung nasabi ko na to before, parang hindi pa. But there's this movie called Palm Springs, and it's really
Oh
nice.
wow, yeah.
I just
So
watched
Sal
Sam
watched it.
movie.
And Kristen Milioti.
Ah.
And it's
The love of my life.
I mean, kasi that pairing was really good. The chemistry, I mean, just the actors alone, it's just parang good casting, and the chemistry and the story. I can't really spoil. I mean, all I'm gonna say is that it's not anything new the way the premise goes, but the way they approach it and the way it plays out and the philosophical approach to life based on the narrative. It's just really feel good, but it's also really funny. But what do you expect from Andy Samberg in most of his works? And you know, Kristen Milioti is just really fun to watch in any of the roles that she's put in. And it's nice that she's paired here with Andy. So Palm Springs really, and ganda rin ng visuals for this. It's really nice. So that is my movie recommendation for the week. And stream folklore as always.
Sal, do you want to go next?
Oh, okay. I'm gonna go next. It's been a stressful past couple of weeks, so I decided to find another sad BBC TV show to get in. So, I think a lot of people are talking about it, but I am officially a huge fan of Normal People.
Ooh.
It's adapted from this book of the same title by Sally Rooney. It's set in Ireland. I finished the show last Friday night, and I'm now halfway through the book. So
Where did you find the
Wow.
copy though?
That's
It's so hard.
good.
the show is about it's kind of a character study about two people, so Connell and Marianne, who are played by Paul Mescal and Daisy Edgar Jones. Paul Mescal's actually nominated for an Emmy in this. And it's very super.
Congrats.
I think Daisy Edgar Jones was super robbed of a nomination. It follows their relationship through the years, so it's very introspective in a sense na these two people have a very deep connection, and that deep connection like kind of comes with this presumption that they know what goes on in each other's heads, and that's why they always end up miscommunicating because they expect too much of each other. So you see how that
Wow.
runs for 12 episodes,
Naku,
and I wouldn't
Yeah, I was
recommend
like, wait.
I wouldn't recommend binging it. Better to slow watch it, but it's a fantastic show, and the book is also really good.
But where do you find the copy of the book at this point? I've been trying so hard, so I'm buying it.
I have a Kindle.
Oh, okay.
Ah,
That makes it easier.
Burns?
I'll go next. So, 'cause well, my life's always been pretty much work every day. But since I'm not going anywhere, like literally not going anywhere, I'm not much of a series person. So what I decided the past few weeks was, might as well succumb to the universe that is Netflix
Okay.
and watch the shows that people always hyped up about and I actually never got to watch.
Mm-mm.
So the past month I finished Black Mirror,
Oh wow.
and very recently I finished Breaking Bad and I caught up with Better Call Saul, and wow, it's amazing. Like if you don't want to be disappointed by a series or a movie and has a great continuity, you should watch Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. Like maybe this is a personal choice, but I like Saul better than Breaking Bad
It's interesting.
because Saul is just a great character, and I find the courtroom drama more much appealing. And I like the characters then, especially like people like Gus and Mike. So they're just really interesting characters. But since Better Call Saul is on a break right now, I'm in the middle of The Crown, so I'm getting excited. I'm feeling really intrigued about the story, and so wala. Netflix, guys, it's such a haven pala. I never realized it. So
I'm glad you got on
good
the
things
hype
came
train.
out of this. Yeah.
And again,
so,
hello Netflix, please sponsor us. Ang tagal na ng pananawagan natin sa show na to. Episode 52 na to.
Is it really? Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
and
Alright.
Ren.
Oh man, I hate going last. So for music recommendation, there's a K-pop artist I really love right now called her stage name is Hafelt, but her real name is Park Yoon, and she was one of the Wonder Girls before. So if you know the song Nobody, that was them.
Oh.
Ooh.
And it doesn't sound like the song Nobody, so don't need to worry about that. It's like slow jazz, slow rock, and some of the songs are in English. One of the title tracks is called Life Sucks, which is yeah, it does. So I don't know, it's like the cathartic sad, which is why I really recommend it. The entire album called 1719 is really really good, so listen to that. I super recommend Paula mentioned Haikyuu. I recommend reading the manga. It just finished. It's fantastic.
I can't read it,
me-
Dran. I can't. I
Oh.
have to wait for the anime.
I'm not even gonna talk about it, but it made me read more about volleyball, like not just like the rules and stuff, but it made
Yeah.
me research like our history of volleyball in the Philippines, why like the history of it in Korea and in Japan and all over the world. And it like basketball was always like a really big sport for me, and now I feel like
Yeah.
I'm just as big of a fan as volleyball now, just because of Haikyuu.
Yay.
So it really made me love the sport. And for a movie, there's a movie called Won't You Be My Neighbor. It's a documentary
Oh,
about
yeah.
Fred Rogers,
Watch that
and
one.
it's
Love
like
it.
the most wholesome. He's like the nicest man. So I haven't seen a single episode of his show, but I'm a fan of his just because of the documentary. So watch that if you wanna
Understand.
feel happy, and then
It's
listen
gonna be
to
on Netflix, right? Or yung Tom Hanks ba yung nasa
Tom Hanks. Tom Hanks.
The Tom Hanks film is on Netflix,
Yeah,
which is
yeah.
an okay watch also,
Yeah,
but
it's-
mas maganda
it's
yung
nice also.
documentary.
Yeah.
And then I forgot. Sorry, this is another movie, but this is like crazy discovery. There's a movie called Atalantiques, which is a supernatural romance movie. And I found out about it because it was nominated for the Palme d'Or at Cannes last year.
Wow.
Oh,
And
wow.
the director, oh my goodness, I forgot her name, but she was the first black woman to be nominated for the Palme d'Or first.
Oh,
And
that's
the
great.
movie later won the Grand Jury Prize, which is also a first. So
Great.
Wow.
it's really good. Oh, same cinematographer as Portrait of a Lady on Fire as well. If you needed another reason to
Ooh.
watch it.
Oh.
Everyone's like,
Ooh.
woo!
So there
Okay.
you go.
Well,
But before we end, thank you so much, Paula, for taking over this episode. Like, it's
so
the first
near
time we
my-
ever did this on the show, and I'm happy na, we got to take the spotlight with Harry Potter. And yeah, we're look forward to more episodes like this where more of our co-hosts will take over with the stuff that they love that
Yes.
I'm not as like into. I mean, I'm still probably into it, but not as much as they are. So thank you, Paula, for this whole Potter episode, and thank you, everyone. So Paula will take.
Well, thank you everyone for joining the podcast again, and thank you, Cholo, for giving me the opportunity to talk about Harry Potter. Aside from the regular talking of Harry Potter that I do on a day-to-day basis, so this is greatly appreciated. And thank you to everyone for listening. You guys can stream all of our previous episodes on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and wherever you can stream your podcasts. And of course, we're also on Radyo Katipunan 87.9 FM. So thank you so much to the Radyo Katipunan family for all the constant support and just allowing us to air the program on your station. Our video episodes can also be found on their page. So if you're interested in what we actually look like, and all of the, the pointing back that I do to my video
Our
and all of that
outfit,
stuff, our outfits.
My name.
Yeah. And Dren's
Just a
name
portrait.
can be found on their page as well. And feel free to follow us on social media. That's at Popcorn W Cholo, at Popcorn with Cholo. On Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter for more updates, not just about the podcast, but about pop culture in general. So thank you guys. See you next time, and mischief managed.
Bye.
This is your stop for all things pop. Catch our all-around pop culture geek, Cholo Sediaren, as he throws in some dose of what's poppin' and what's hot in the pop culture scene here on Popcorn. Munch in with us every Thursdays from 4 to 6, only here on Radyo Katipunan 87.9 FM.